Our next guest has been ready for football since he said goodnight on BYU Radio on the postgame show last December. It's a long wait, and it's just about over. That right after BYU blew out Colorado in the Alamo Bowl. He's the tag team partner of Greg Wrubell on the radio side of BYU Broadcasting. Always a pleasure to have this former Cougar and our colleague Hans Olsen on the Wise Guys. I know you got an earful of Austin Collie there toward the end. He had a lot of things to choose from on what he was most proud of.
Yeah, great player. And it was a great place to play. You talked about Peyton, and you talked about that amazing Colts organization. And I was there a couple of years before he jumped in there. Yeah. And talk about a great group of guys that know how to practice. They know how to play the game. And, man, I wish Austin could be a little bit more Marvin than Austin if he wasn't so dang ornery and thought he had to take on everything with his head. Marvin wouldn't take a hit. Reggie Wayne wouldn't take a hit. Those dudes would get a ball and get to the ground as fast as they could. Austin, he would just keep running right through the hits. So, tough dude.
No, and Peyton loved to throw it at him, and he tells the stories of how Peyton would get on him, and he felt like that was a compliment because Peyton wanted him to be great, even as a rookie, when Peyton starts getting on you when you're a rookie, that's really a compliment, isn't it?
I'll be honest with you, Blaine. If you're on the field with Peyton, he gets on you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Hans, we just realized that this is the first time on this show we've had two Indianapolis Colts. And so we appreciate having you as one of our headliners tonight.
Well, all we need to do is get Blake Freeland, and
what about
ourselves
Derlin?
a nice little trio over here.
We've never had two. We get Dewey. We could get four.
We get Dewey, you, Austin, and Blake, and we could have a four-guy Colts thing.
Yeah. The Colts have had a lot of BYU guys go through. Yeah. Larry Moore was there when I got there, our center.
Didn't Rob Morris play there too?
Rob Morris was
there.
What
about Aaron Francisco? Was he with the Colts a little bit? Or no?
Aaron Francisco was there. Yeah. Kaipo McGuire was with the Colts. Matt Johnson, if you remember the offensive lineman, Matt Johnson, he was drafted by the Colts. It's been a nice little BYU pipeline. I don't think people realize how many BYU players have gone through there.
Yeah, that's people always think the Niners and the Eagles, probably because of Andy, and then Mike Holmgren was there for a while, and Steve was there, and they think of those two teams. They don't think of the Colts, but when we just laid it out right there,
there might be more Colts than
any other, right? So
a lot of BYU players.
Yeah, that's fun.
I think there was 6 or 7 within a 5-year period when I was there.
That's cool. And you know what? The guys that come first set the tone, and they go, well, let's take another guy. Let's sign another guy from BYU. These BYU guys know how to work. And so it's just like anything else. The guys that are the foundation set the tone for the guys that come later, for sure, right?
Well, yeah, and I will tell you, I think if you were to track any coach in the NFL that's had the most BYU players, that's probably Andy Reid.
Yeah.
He threw a lot of charity positions out there for guys like Chad Lewis and Reno Mahe. Just give them a home to sit in for a minute. But whether it's with Philly or whether it was Kansas City, he's really given a lot of BYU guys a lot of opportunity.
Hans, I know you talked about this on your radio show today in the Salt Lake City market. The Cougars ranked 26, one spot outside the AP top 25 for the preseason. You've had some time to think about it. What do you think about that?
Right where they need to be. It's right where I want them to be. Outside of the top 25, outside of everybody's mind, still feel like you got a chip on your shoulder because you feel like you should be ranked in that top 25. It's also a great position where you beat Portland State soundly. You get a nice dominating win at LaVell Edwards Stadium over Stanford. You'll find yourself somewhere around that 17-18 mark in week 2. If you're 17-18 in week 2, if you get a couple of clutch wins, you'll be in the top 15 within week 4. So I feel really good about that. I personally want Kalani and this team to feel doubted. I want them to feel slighted because last year they proved everybody wrong. They shoved every word that I said right down my throat and text me during it. And it was awesome. It's not that I was overly negative. I just didn't see 11 wins.
Are you telling me in the middle of your broadcast, Kalani in the middle of the game would send you a text saying you didn't know, but you just found out?
Hans doesn't know, but he's about to find out.
Did you get those right in the middle of the game?
No, he sent me a text during the middle of the game that said, "I'm as surprised as you are." Actually,
yeah, it's interesting that you say one victory probably jumps on multiple spots. Is that because if they have a really good showing, then the quarterback's going to play well, and then will everybody just in their minds go, "Oh, you know what? They're all right at quarterback, so we probably penalize them too much for losing Jake. Let's move them up where they belong." Is that the mentality you're using to say maybe they go up to 17 or 18?
That's exactly it. Well, there's a couple things, Blaine. So number one, people are instantly going to see that Glasgow and Kelly are still on the field, and they're still ridiculous. They're going to see Keanu Tanabasa and be like, "Oh, man, now they got some interior threat." They're going to see LJ Martin. They're going to be like, "Oh, geez, yeah, we forgot. The guy was, when he was healthy, he was unstoppable." They're going to learn about Soane Moa, which I'm really excited for people to learn about Soane Moa because he's spectacular. I do want to see a number 3. I'm hoping that Hinckley can get back as quickly as possible.
Do you know who, and I saw Hinckley the other day, and he is as healthy as he's ever been at BYU.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting for the NCAA to give him a clearance. And I was walking away from him the other day, and I thought, you know what, this might be a good thing. Hinckley's always had some minor injury in camp that's haunted him the whole. I'm okay. He's in such good shape, and he knows this offense. I'm okay if he misses most of camp and doesn't get hurt. And then they just plug him in, right?
It would be really nice just to have him as the third option. You know, I know that there's a couple of other guys, Nawahine and a couple of other guys.
Preston Rex, they moved over from safety. Yeah. And I talked to A-Rod the other day, and I said, "Who's the biggest surprise at camp?" He goes, "Holy cow, Blaine, Preston Rex." I was like, "Preston Rex?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "How did we not know?" He said he does all the things you can't teach a running back. Like we hand him the ball in a stretch, and he immediately puts his foot in the ground and hits a cutback lane. Yeah. He says, vision, ability to make people miss. And he says, and you should see this guy catch the ball in the backfield. He goes, he is going to play. And he says, and frankly, none of us had any thought about that. And 8 practices in, the dude is really good at running back. We're much more solid than we thought. I thought, good for Preston Rex. How about that? It's pretty cool.
Well, the last defender they moved over from defense to running back, he ended up getting drafted, and he's kicking some butt in the NFL now.
Tyler Algier played for linebacker, and they moved over there.
Hands.
Yeah. They have a good vision with that. But yeah, so my point is, Blaine, I believe that people will remember, and they're going to see, oh my gosh, these guys have a lot of talent, and they did add some talent. And I think that they would jump the rankings fast. I think after a Stanford win, a good Stanford thumping, I really do think they could climb into that. Anywhere from 18 to 20, I think is very possible.
So what do you want to see? What are you most looking forward to seeing from BYU on August 30th, which is a couple of weeks out now, against Portland State?
Yeah, the starting quarterback. That's the biggest answer, and that's the most exciting aspect. And to see if they've got the touch, if they've got the poise, if they've got what it takes to run through this daunting schedule, because it is going to be a long fight for BYU. This is a really tough schedule, and I like how it starts. I like that you get a couple of good games, Portland State and Stanford, to get things going, and then you get things rocking with East Carolina. East Carolina is going to be tough. That's going to be a tough road game, Blaine. I don't know, Dave, I don't know how familiar you guys are with those Carolina fans.
It's not an easy place to play.
Yeah, they're wacky. And then I'm sure you guys are going to be there. I'll be there. We're all going to be there in Boulder. And we're all going to see what Coach Prime brings with all these 5-star talent that he was able to get. Yeah. And we'll get a real test of what BYU is going to be in conference play. But it's the quarterback, Dave. And, I've got some ideas. I've got some thoughts based off of breaking down Aaron Roderick's comments and the small observation periods that we've had, and my overall thoughts on what these quarterbacks can be. I've got some thoughts and expectations, but that will be the biggest thing for all of us to watch in that opener against Portland State.
Yeah,
so clearly that's it. But here's a question. You just talked about, people are going to realize that Isaiah Glasgow and Jack Kelly are still there, and maybe Sialia Sarah's a beast, and wait a minute, their safeties are back, and these guys are really good, and their corners are good, and So with all of the strength, and the receivers are deep, and you just talked about the running backs, and this offensive line is deep. They got some young, really good guys backing up, and some veterans on the. Are we making too much of the quarterback situation? Like, because BYU, they were talking 12 to 14 2 months ago. Jake's suspended, and then he leaves, and all of a sudden they're not in the top 25. Is that, are we making too much of the quarterback thing, or is that valid that they drop 8 to 10 spots because of it?
Yeah, I think it's valid because it's college football, and it's a position you play, Blaine. Nobody knows it better than you. In college football, I guess it would be, they talk about it in the NHL, that the goalie is the most important position. And what they say is you don't realize how important it is until you don't have one. And that's the quarterback. You don't realize how important it is until you don't have one, and you're trying to throw a couple of different guys in, and then you start these quarterback rotations, and nobody's getting that drive done when they need that drive. And so, Blaine,
Yeah.
It's important. You've got to be able to orchestrate it. And Roderick's offense has moving parts, and you've got to be smart. And I actually think that that's why Bear Bachmeier still has a real shot in this.
Yeah.
I think that he is an extremely intelligent kid. I've got a family member that played with him or that's been around the Bachmeier family at Stanford. And my family is very complimentary of the Bachmeier's intelligence. When they were coming over, said, I think you might be getting two of the most intelligent kids and intelligent football players that this game knows. So I don't put it past guys like Bachmeier. If Bear really is as intelligent as my family says he is, Blaine, they can learn this offense and they can be great in it. But it's that critical, and it should drop them, and until they prove it. And then once they prove it, they should bump up into number 15 after that Colorado game. They should be right around 15, and then you get into West Virginia and at Arizona. Those are a couple very winnable games. In fact, you got to win them.
Yeah, if you get start out 6-0, you're a top 12 team, right?
Well, and then enter University of Utah.
Yeah,
Who's going to be? They've got a chip on their shoulder. So that rivalry game is going to be one for the ages.
In just a couple minutes, Hans is going to reveal his top 5 games of the season on the schedule for BYU. We're visiting with former Cougar and BYU TV and BYU Radio analyst Hans Olsen on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, Eddie, and Mountain America Credit Union. A couple of rapid-fire questions for you. No matter who the quarterback is,
right?
If BYU's defense holds its opponents to 19.6 points a game like they did last year, how many games do the Cougars win?
10.
Yeah, 19.6 is elite level, especially in Power 4 football, right? So I think he's right in there. Okay, so here's the next one. If the secondary comes anywhere close, and it's a combination of secondary and backers, to the 22 nation-leading interceptions they had last year, how does that show up in wins and losses?
That will reflect by a +2 or a +3 category. So that would take you from a 6-win season to a 9-win season. Interceptions like you go back to those moments against TCU. I think Tyler Batty had an interception just before the half or just after the half, and then you had the pick 6. Was it Parasis?
Yeah, Tommy. Oh, he had a scoop and score.
A scoop and score. Yeah. That's right. He had a scoop and score that it ended up with a quick touchdown. Those turnovers were so critical. That was the game against TCU. So I'm going to say it's if you're talking about 22 interceptions, I think that's a +3 level.
Three more wins, then that'll earn you 3 more wins, which puts you up in 9 or 10 wins then.
Yep.
If Will Ferrin doesn't miss any field goals, and he's made 16 in a row, how does that factor into wins and losses?
I think that'll be it'll be imperative. I think that would add on to a record by 1 or 2. There's going to be 1 or 2 games that he's got to nail that shot in order for BYU to win. And so I would say that's a +1 or a +2. And man, he's so good, you guys.
Yeah.
And I went back and watched the end of that Utah game, and I've played in that Utah game. I know how intense and how crazy the feelings are, the butterflies and the nerves. And watching that offense get into field goal position and him knock through a 44, was it, or 47?
44.
Right down the pipe.
It was just awesome. And, you guys were talking about the 22 interceptions and you were talking about the great defense. Last year, I believe BYU's special teams were a +3. Okay. I think they gave you 3 wins that you probably wouldn't have had. If they just played flatline, probably 3 wins that you wouldn't have had. And, you had the moments, what was it, Arizona State, where they booted one straight up the middle and it bounced off Tanner Wald or something.
Yeah, off of Talon, all free. Yeah. And it wasn't even an onside kick. He was doing a squib, but he hit it so hard right at him, Talfrey couldn't get out of the way. Like, such a lucky play, right?
Such a lucky play. Or that stupid quick punt.
Yeah.
Against Kansas, where it goes off of Jacob's helmet. Because Jacob thinks he's in coverage. He doesn't know. He thinks he's in coverage. And that football came off the foot like it was a pass. Bounces off his helmet. Those,
like we were looking hands, and that ball had to go through a 2 foot by 2 foot window to even hit him.
Yeah.
Like, what's the chance somebody punts a ball into a 2 foot by 2 foot window and they recover? I mean, it's just, there were some teams that had some lucky plays against BYU that resulted in wins the other way, right? So,
I've talked about this because people love to make the argument to me. Well, BYU was 3 or 4 plays away from only having 7 or 8 wins. I'm like, they were really 3 plays away from having 2 more wins.
Right.
So, it's just it was crazy. It's the craziest season I've ever watched.
Yeah. And that's Power 4 football, though, where there's so much talent on each team. Even the bad teams have good players. So
yeah.
Well, Hans, that Utah BYU rivalry is never far from our thoughts for these fan bases. You talk to both all the time. Considering Kalani's recent recruiting haul, the program's financial strength, both with NIL and ticket buyers, and the staff that he's got here, how worried should the Utes be moving forward as they try to go toe-to-toe?
Well, kind of an interesting angle to that is BYU feels like they have the youth to sustain the staff, whether it's Jay or Kalani or Roderick or, this is
Gennaro,
a pretty youthful staff. Now, Morgan Scally is coach in waiting, so he'll take over the head coaching duties, but they're going to have to transition out of the Kyle Whittingham era eventually, right. Maybe in the next 2-3 years. Kyle Whittingham is such an incredible recruiter. He can sit in a room, and he was like Lavelle when Lavelle recruited me, where it's like, geez, this guy's won a lot. And he's created a lot of NFL talent. I think he's got 65 draft picks in his time, in his 19 seasons at Utah. Like, he's drafted a lot of guys. So the point I'm trying to drive home is they're going to be transitioning out of a high-level coach. Now, I think that they've got great coaches and they've got young guys that are set up and ready to take over the organization. But look at the transition from Lavelle out into Bronco. Yeah, they had that good year under Gary with Lavelle's guys, but then there were these really tough years until Bronco got the engine revved up again. I think that's just another layer to add on to it. The other thing is how quick BYU picked this up, Dave.
Right.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Hans? Because it felt like 12 years of P5 football for Utah had given them almost an insurmountable recruiting advantage, and now BYU's barely in the Big 12, and they went like 10-1 against Utah this year on head-to-head recruiting. Like, are you surprised that they closed the gap so fast in the recruiting department?
I am, only because I did not see the amount of money that they would have access to. And I didn't realize it until I was told. I didn't realize how much in the money game they were willing to get and could get. And that's made an amazing difference. So, think about this, Blaine. You and I signed with BYU for a reason. It's one of the more incredible places that you can go as a young man. It's the structure that I needed in my life. It's everything that I needed. And And yeah, I had some tough experiences. The honor code was tough for me. It was hard at times. School is hard. BYU is a very hard academic university. And I've talked to kids that have transferred into BYU and kids that have transferred out of BYU. And they're always like, geez, man, the academic structure and level is really daunting. Those things are tough and they're challenging, but that university is so beautiful and so unique, and it sets you up for so many great things in life. And I would say, number one, just to have a base testimony and to get going in the direction religiously that you want to get going in. I mean, we got to talk about that aspect. I know every university offers institute and offers church classes, but it's different. We know it. It's different on that campus. So you've got this unique blend of the difference, the money, and now winning. And I think it was just a perfect storm. And we have seen some intense recruiting. The Ryder Lions signing is mind-boggling. This is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And exciting.
Well, and Brock Harris down in Southern Utah, like, he's as good a tight end as they've had in the state of Utah, and as long as I can remember. And I don't think people realize how big of a signing that. He could have gone anywhere he wanted to and be the guy. So it seemed like it was one after the other, and basketball did the same thing. And it's interesting, Hans, that you bring up testimony and that extra aspect. There are kids that are not members of the predominant faith there that are coming for the same reason. And I say this because I had a long talk with Yegor Demon and his folks, and one of the reasons they chose BYU was not just because of the NBA coaching staff and all of that. It was like, no, we're a really religious family, and he has a lot of faith, and we want him to go to a faith-based place. So and we want him to be not distracted because we want him to get ready. And then we hear a similar story from AJ. And so these are basketball stories, but the same things are happening in football, where there's some really high-level recruits that are not members of the Churches of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that are also coming because of the faith-based nature of the institution. Have you seen that as well?
Yeah, and I saw it in my time,
Bless you.
Excuse me. Ronnie Jenkins came because he wanted structure. His grandma wanted structure. And I think now, Blaine, Dave, I'm sure you've seen this too. I think BYU, and I know the Jake Retzlaff story and situation is different, but BYU has done a very good job of transitioning into this hardcore put your name in the media during honor code issue thing into, if we can let this kid grow, if it's not illegal, if it's, if it's not something that the law is involved with, if we can let him grow, then we're going to let him grow.
Like they do in any department on campus.
Right.
With any kid.
That's what I like now, Hans, is like, and we all have a little bit of a look behind the curtain, but the mentality of the university with all of the students is these are young people that are going to make mistakes. And we don't want to alienate them or cast them out. When they have a problem, what we want to do is put a scaffold around them and help them get back on the path that they should be on. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to love them back in. And they don't just kick out everybody. And maybe it felt like at a time back long ago that, well, we have to make an example of athletes. And now I think, and you're saying Jake's a little bit of an exception, it was just so public and so visible that it was a little bit of a different... But now it seems like they're treating the athletes, members or non-members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, with that same loving, listen, you got a problem, and you go to your ecclesiastical leader and you want to fix it, and you have a desire to be a better person. That's what we're here for. We're here to put our arms around you and give you help and help you get back on the path and be the person that you want to be. That's what we're here for. Not to marginalize you and kick you out as soon as you do something wrong. And we've all seen from behind the scenes a fundamental change across the board over the last decade, which I think is a fantastic direction that they've gone. And so I'm glad you bring that up, Hans.
Yeah, it's a must. And I wish that it would have been more like that when you were playing, a little bit more like that when I was playing. Don't get caught in the weeds. And continue to reform it.
Yeah.
I just don't care about beards. I don't care about mullets. I don't care about long hair. I care about young men having an opportunity, Blaine, that you had,
right,
and that I have.
And
to be able to be on that campus, to be a part of that team, to have what better word to use? To have the spirit around you in the locker room and on campus and with your friends. Yeah, you're still doing dumb things. Nobody's acting like they're perfect. Gosh, I was the biggest idiot on campus, and I made a lot of stupid mistakes. And everybody has to admit that they're stupid at that age. They're dumb. So I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, these guys are perfect and they think they're having church in the locker room. No, it's far from that. The locker room was really rough.
Yeah.
I was rough in the locker room. There was ugly talk, and it was really tough. But it's not as tough as the places that I took recruiting trips to.
Exactly right.
Can you imagine?
I don't even want to talk about some of the recruiting visits that I had.
Yeah, that might be a whole nother show.
Penn State. No, we can't do that on this show.
No.
Hans, can you imagine if we had gathered 36,000 perfect 22-year-olds?
Oh, gosh.
And they happen to be over on campus. The whole world would be here to go, hey, you found 36,000 perfect young men and young women. Then they would go where the city of Enoch went, and then we would have no players.
Anybody.
Then we wouldn't even be able to have a team.
Every week we have a congregation of sinners that are trying to help each other get better, and that's the same as it is down on BYU's campus. And
former Cougar, BYU Radio football analyst Hans Olsen on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, wiseguys.com. Bradford's on the stream from 35,000 feet on his way to Oahu. So I don't even know how we mapped that because he's moving.
Is he streaming us? Is he allowed to do that on an airplane?
I think you can do anything now up there.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. So, Hans, we're international in international airspace right now on the show.
That's awesome.
Hey, and Les from New Mexico, Hans, has a food question for you because I know you often talk about food on your show.
I don't know if Hans knows Les Namanga. His son Joseph has been a manager on the football program for a number of years. Les is a world famous Native American artist, and he's down in New Mexico, and he joins the show all the time.
So he says, I need a food question answered by Hans.
Very important.
Mac and cheese or spaghetti and meatballs? That's the question.
Mac and cheese, but a homemade mac and cheese.
Okay.
And I would do a couple of things. I use a pepper jack for some of my cheese. I'll also mix in, and this goes out to him, I'll mix in some green chilies.
There you go.
I like a 5-alarm green chili. I like a pepper jack. I like a creamy mac, and I like to use the shell, and I do a bit el dente. So not fully cooked, just so it's got a little bit more texture in the shell with that creamy chili cheese. So good.
See, Les, how about that, Les? That sounds like it's got a little bit of Santa Fe, New Mexico flair to it right there. And Les is, his galleries are down there in Santa Fe.
When I think of mac and cheese, I think about the Kraft box. That was just a whole experience you just described.
And by the way, and you cook it on the smoker, so it gets a little smoke in the cheese. By the way, Les, my son's down there in New Mexico on his mission. He's on the reservations in New Mexico. He's already had a couple of baptisms. He's been out for a couple of months, and he loves New Mexico.
That's awesome.
Loves the people. He is loving his mission. He is in the most beautiful headspace I've ever known my son to be. And I'm grateful to New Mexico, the people of New Mexico, the beautiful natives who live in New Mexico. What an incredibly enchanting place that has so much unique depth and highly underrated food town is Albuquerque.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite food stops. The fresh rolled and pressed and made tortillas, the green chilies that they put on everything. Their meats are softened with great marinades, just well seasoned, a little bit of spice, but not too much spice. They know what type of cheese to use for every occasion. You know this, Blaine.
Yeah.
If you need melty cheese, or you need a more granule cheese, or you need a cheese that crisps up on a tortilla, they just have the cheeses and the knowledge. What a great food place.
It is fun to play. I'm sad that we don't get to go. I mean, I've done a lot of basketball games in the pit over the years and done some games. Dave and I have done games down from the University Stadium there. And I met Les because he was so kind. Brenda came down. I was doing New Mexico State and New Mexico for NBC down in the pit. And somehow I must have tweeted out. And Les DM'd me and said, hey, Blaine, this is Les. You guys coming up to Santa Fe? You should come up to Santa Fe. And we had an extra day. So we went up to Santa Fe. And he showed us around the galleries and just gave us some New Mexico love down there. And I've been a huge fan of Les ever since. And he says he concurs on the green chilies, Hans, and he also says that your son is in his mission. So he says he's in my mission.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there you go.
Take care of him. Let's get some of that green chilies in my boy.
There you go.
You know what? I'd love to be in the living room when your son comes in, who's playing for Utah State, and going to be a big offensive lineman, just like you.
Wait a minute. He can come back from his mission to BYU.
Yeah, he could come back.
He can still come back.
But when they say, "Hey, Elder Olsen, what's your first name?" and he goes, "Rock." I just would love to be in that room when those guys go, "This is a mountain of a young man. His name's Rock, and he plays football, and he's here to teach me the gospel." I think that's fantastic. Yeah. We're glad to hear he's doing great.
Yeah, and a Real American Dude says, this is awesome, and it's great for Elder Olsen. So, like lots of people rooting for your boy. That's cool.
Oh, it's so cool. They've got the native name for him, and I can't pronounce it in the Navajo tongue, but it's Bear Man. And he loves the people, Blaine. I don't know if I'm going to get him back. Maybe he stays and plays in New Mexico. I don't know.
That's awesome.
And by the way, Joseph was here at BYU, and he was working as I'd see him every day out at practice, and I said, "What are you going to do?" And he says, "Oh, I don't know." And then I was talking to Les, and Les says, "Every child of a great artist doesn't get the gift," and he said, "Joseph has the gift." So I think Joseph came up for the experience here and is going to go be a world famous artist like his dad. So
that's so great. Speaking of sons, how proud are you, Mr. Fowler?
Yeah,
I was out there at practice watching your boy work, and what a beautiful kid, man. I look at him and my heart just thumps. I mean, you talk about living an amazing life and working in a field that he loves, and I'm watching him with that passion in his eyes, and he's intense. And I was close enough. I was listening to his instruction. I'm like, this dude knows this game so freaking well. And it was just so fun to see him out there loving life, Blaine.
Yeah, he's having so much fun, and I'm telling you, he's got some dudes. Like, he's the safeties coach, and Tanner Wall, like, people don't understand how good Tanner Wall is. He'll be one of the best safeties in the Big 12 this year, because everybody's like, "Oh, he's super smart. He's an academic All-American, and he's this and he's that, and he knows where everybody's supposed to be. He even knows the defensive line's assignment and what their gap is, and he lines everybody." They say all these things, and you know what they don't say? He runs a 4.4 and has a 39.5-inch vertical jump. He's a crazy athlete that's also as strong as a house, right? And so, so he's that rare combination of super smart and really athletic. And Gavin's just like, man, I just love working with these guys. They're very deep at safety. He's got such a good crew. And guys like Raider DeMooney, the game was really fast for him last year. Now the game's slowed down. He's really athletic. And it's a very, very deep position, and he loves coaching those dudes. And Kalani said to me, like a week or so ago, he said, "Hey, just want to tell you, Gavin is like literally only a few years away from being a Power 4 defense coordinator." I was like, "Wow, okay, that's awesome." And he goes, No, he gets this game. And that was a wonderful comment from Kalani. He says he just understands the game so well, and we just turn a lot of stuff over to him. Like, "Hey, Gavin, go teach him. Gavin, we're going to have everybody come to you for film study. D-line, linebackers, secondary, off-season. We're going to have them contact you so you can help them with recognition and teach them the defense," which I think is so good for his development to have that responsibility, but which has helped him to grow close to every position on the defense, and he loves that. He just loves the relationships. Coaching is about relationships, and you got to love that first and love the kids, and then you got to know what you're doing, and he sure loves that and loves the kids, I'll tell you that.
He's a great one.
I was interviewing him for an article I wrote last week on Tanner Wall, and so I got with Gavin after practice, and he goes, "You're interviewing me? You need me?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm interviewing you. You're big time now." And I got some questions for you, and that was a new experience for him. But yeah, he's doing well. 5 questions for Hans as we finish up with Hans Olsen, presented by StrategySquare.co. Your top 5 games on the BYU schedule, ranking from 5 to 1, with 1 being the best. Or the Utah game. I'm not quite sure unless you're going to throw us a curveball at the end.
Yeah, if Utah's number 1, we need a really good explanation.
There's 12 games on the schedule. Hans Olsen's top 5, starting with 5.
Starting with 5.
Here's the tough thing. 4 of the 5 are road games.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
4 of the 5 are road games.
Which is telling me that Utah's the only home game.
Utah is the only home
We'll
game.
try not to spoil it for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, so 5.
Yeah,
What's
you're
number?
gonna have to wait for where I rank it though.
So number 5 is.
It's going to be at Cincinnati. I think that's a sneaky good Bearcats team. I can't wait to go call a game in that stadium. I love Cincinnati. I'm one of the few people I've ever met or know that loves Cincinnati. Speaking of spaghetti and meatballs, Dave, it's not spaghetti and meatballs. It's spaghetti and chili.
Oh,
And
is that a Cincinnati thing?
Chili going 4-way, where you get the onion, you get the loaded cheese, you get that Skyline chili that's got a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of chocolate in it. It's just the best kind of like deep, rich chili mixes in with that spaghetti. So
we're gonna start a new podcast with Hans where we just do food
Just
stuff.
do food.
And I think that'll be huge.
Sounds
It'll be
great.
huge.
Oh.
So hey, one thing I was gonna. You were talking about Gavin. The first time that he went back there, I think he was. I don't know if he was coaching or playing. They were at Cincinnati, and he called me and he goes, "Dad, I love this stadium." He goes, "This place is so like old school. It just reeks of history," and he loved it. And so I don't think people realize that Cincinnati's a cool place to play, and that stadium's kind of a cool historic place.
It is. It is. I'm so excited to get back there. So that's number 5.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is the first Big 12 conference game of the year at Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
Taking on the Buffalo. I can't wait to see what Coach Prime can do. Because, guys, I called that Alamo Bowl.
Yeah.
I called that game. I watched Coach Prime and the level of embarrassment. You had 8.5 million eyeballs on you. You had talked about your Heisman winner. You had talked about your draft pick son. You had built this thing up like nobody quits. We're all going to play. They all played. Nobody left. Everybody played.
Which I do respect, right?
I respect it, but that made the embarrassment all the more. So Coach Prime, knowing that it's the first Big 12 game for BYU, Coach Prime is going to have them geared up. They're going to be notched up. You know it.
That's going to be
Both you
wild.
guys know.
It's going to be a wild
So,
night.
but here's the thing. Now you got a brand new quarterback, and it's not named Shador. BYU gave Shador 22 different looks to pre-snap looks, and not one of those 22 pre-snap looks were the defense that they got after the snap of the football. You don't think BYU's going to do the same thing to their brand new quarterback and cause confusion?
I think they're going to eat him up.
There you go.
And I think they're going to beat him up. But the other aspect of that, Blaine, is it could be 2 freshmen playing in that
True.
game.
Yeah,
So,
very true. So it could,
Okay.
it could
We'll
be
see
whoever
what
defense can
Colorado-
create the most short fields or
Yep.
scooping scores or picks, right?
exactly.
There you go.
And who can get their run game going and control some clock.
Awesome.
I cannot wait. That is going to be a great game. Number 3, on an airplane to Lubbock, Texas, to take on the number 23 ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders. It's going to be at Lubbock, and it's the 4th to the last game of the season. And I cannot wait to be in Lubbock and see what they do against what they're now coining the money team in the Big 12.
Yeah, Texas Tech spent a lot of NIL money, didn't they?
A lot more than BYU. It was a bigger buzz and more talked about at Big 12 Media Day than anything BYU's done financially. So Texas Tech is in the money game.
All right.
Number 2.
Before we get to number 2, we welcome Rick and Terry Scow from Cardston, Alberta on the stream. Steve is in from New Hampshire, checking in from New Hampshire. Can't wait to represent at TD Garden. Tickets purchased, ready to go.
Oh, for the
Love
UConn
show.
game. There you
So
go.
We're in Canada
we
and
add-
also
we-
over in
we just
New
added
Hampshire.
another country for this show tonight, hands in Canada. So we got Canada in the house tonight. So cool.
Very good.
Where everyone's eager for number 2.
There we go. And in Lubbock, Texas, they got a really good starting quarterback back in Baron Morton and
They're
a good
gonna be
group of
good.
receivers. They're going to be good. That's going to be a fun one. Okay, so number 2.
Number 2, Ames going to Iowa
Oh,
State.
at Iowa State, yes.
It is going to be this is going to be the best the Big 12 has been in many years. You've got 12 returning quarterbacks that have a depth of incredible experience, and none more than Iowa State. And Iowa State is loaded, and they're looked at as a potential CFP team. And they got themselves to that Big 12 championship game last year. So they want to return and they want to walk away with it. And they've got a lot of their starters back. And that is going to be a dogfight. I think that's going to be the toughest game for BYU on their entire conference schedule. And that's because they play the number one team on my list the week before. They play Iowa State.
Yeah, that's a tough back-to-back. And Iowa State, it's one of the few stadiums in the country I haven't been to, but my understanding is that is a crazy place to play.
I've heard.
That'd be fun for you to go do that one, Hans.
Yeah.
I've heard it's complete insanity, and Rocco Beck is...
He's the deal. He's a real deal.
He's a spectacular talent.
Yeah. Dave and I'll be back here in studio, so you're going to have to tell us all about that one.
Yeah, it's going to be a spectacular game. And the thing that's going to make that the hardest game on their schedule is you're playing the University of Utah, who is, of course, the number one most exciting and excited for game on this schedule. Kalani has now beat Utah 2 years in a row, not consecutively. Obviously, some time elapsed in between, but he's got a current win streak of 2 over Kyle Whittingham. Kyle Whittingham came back for the 2025 season, and I'm sure he has no intentions to lose to Kalani. This game has every major storyline for a rivalry game that you could ever imagine, where you've got players that have turned colors and gone from one to the other. You've got all kinds of intermingling with coaching, and you've got bad blood, even though they're friends. It's like, man, it's still bad blood. It's got every major storyline that you could possibly want. And the University of Utah has been consistently ranked above BYU by most national insiders. Guys like Brett McMurphy and many others that I respect have Utah ranked above and in the top 25 in many cases above BYU. So you've got everything that you could possibly want. And you guys, that is going to be the game of all games.
Oh, yeah.
BYU should be great. So here's a question relative to quarterback, and I threw this out to Austin. I want to throw it out to you. Which is a bigger uphill climb? Utah has Dampier, who is a new quarterback, but he started at New Mexico, not nearly the level of competition that he's going to play against this year in the Big 12. So he's at New Mexico in the Mountain West Conference. And he has run this offense because they have a new offensive coordinator. So at Utah, you've got a quarterback who hasn't played at the P4 level, but he's going to be running an offense he's very comfortable with the new offense coordinator. But everybody else on that offense has never run this offense before. Or you have BYU, where you've got a bunch of guys that have played a bunch of snaps, returning starters at every position on the field except for quarterback, running the same offense you've run for a number of years, but a brand new guy at quarterback. Which is the bigger uphill climb? For a whole team to learn a new offense, but the quarterback knows it, or for a new quarterback to learn the offense, but the whole team knows it?
Man.
I'm struggling with that one myself.
That's a really good question, Blaine. Utah's got a unique situation where John Beck comes in, and he's worked very closely with Jim Hardy, who's been there, is the longest tenured coach on the offensive side of the ball for Kyle. And I know that they've tried to keep lingo the same, but you're right. It's a completely different offense. Nobody can tell me otherwise. It's going to be very difficult. You know what? If we're just talking about situational, and we're not going to go through each individual player and talk about talent, give me the system that's been in place and a quarterback that has to replace a situation. Bringing a whole new offensive set is going to be very difficult, very daunting. But Jason Beck as well as anybody.
He's really good. Yeah, he's really good.
And he'll have him clicking.
Yeah. And my question is, so heaven forbid any of these guys get hurt, but it just seems like your quarterbacks just go down in this day and age with the punishment they take. And Dampier he's smaller than, we talk about McKay Hillstead. He's McKay's height, only thinner, He's a power pack ball though. He's very, very muscular build. Yeah.
I think he's a pretty durable guy. You know, one of the crazier stats that I came across, Blaine, was I went back and the 16-team season of 2024 and looked at quarterback injuries and replacement. I think that there was a total of 5 games missed because of injury from quarterback play in the Big 12.
Wow, that is amazing. That's probably the lowest they've had in years, wouldn't you think?
Might be the lowest ever.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. The games available and games played by quarterbacks last year in the Big 12 was unheard of. And now people are going to be like, wait a second, no, KJ Jefferson didn't play all the games. I'm talking about injury.
Right.
KJ was replaced because he was not good.
Right.
And there was a couple of change outs. You know, Baylor made their switch to Sawyer Robertson later, but the games that were available for Sawyer as a starter, he played in. Same with Baron Morton, and same with Rocco Becht, and same with Sam Levitt and Josh Hoover and Avery Johnson. And
as physical as this league is, those guys stayed healthy last year.
And Brennan Sorsby, all of them, Blaine.
And I'm looking at Utah. Utah struggled to keep a quarterback healthy, and BYU finally had Jake stay healthy last year for the most part. But they've had injury issues at that position as well. It feels like BYU and Utah have had injury issues. And then that changes the game. This game's not played until game 7, right? And so it's like, whose quarterback that they started this season with is actually going to have played 7 games by the time those two play? And I think that has a huge impact on this game.
Yeah, it'll be big. And I just look at BYU and I think to myself, designate that quarterback now.
Yeah.
And give him every first string rep. Give him all the confidence. You know, you break the dam behind him and you just get a whole flood of confidence going and let that kid feel like he's a world beater. Whether that's Bachmeier or it's McKay Hillstead or it's Trayson, just back them up with so much confidence, because if they can get that clicking, I think this is going to be another special season. They've got so much talent, guys. And I am so grateful for the opportunity to call this game with Greg Wrubell. It's just so much fun to be in the booth and watch the master at work and be able to add my 2 cents and just stay out of the way as much as I can, but still let people see the game from my eyes. I just love it. And that rivalry game last year, by the time that field goal went through, I was depleted.
Well, you were completely exhausted. So
I was exhausted.
And we all were. We were all exhausted.
Yes. It was quite a moment. And we look forward to it. The great Hans Olsen. Give our best to Amanda.
Yes.
Let Elder Olsen know that we wish him the best there in New Mexico, and we will see you soon.
Hey, I'm grateful for both of you. I love the Wise Guys. I don't do a lot of these, but I'll always be here for you guys. I'm your biggest fan of both of you. The way you guys represent yourself, represent the school, and just grateful to be called a friend of yours. So thank you.
Yeah, well, we love you, brother, and we love it when you come on. Thanks for giving us, dropping some knowledge on us tonight.
Anytime, you guys.
Thanks, Hans.
That's a great Hans Olsen. He'll be with Greg Wrubell calling the Cougars on BYU Radio. Greg will join us in 2 weeks, the week of the opener, and we'll hear from him as well. By the way, Scuba Chewy's in from Austin, Texas on the stream, and Eric from Singapore
there you go.
said
We got
add
Singapore adds another country
to the country
to the
list.
tote board.